Eagles Nation. What's really good? It's another week,
What's happening,
another
everybody?
episode. Yes, sir. Another episode of the Eagles Elite Podcast. As always, you have here your boy Cool McCain. And with me today, I have.
Of course, Wyatt from Squad Pod Sports and Waves 5 Media. I'm ready to talk about Eagles, man. Once again, you know what time it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, a lot of big things happening with the Eagles. One piece of news that we didn't discuss, but I know we all know about is week 2. We will be playing. It will be a primetime game on Monday
Mm-hmm.
night. It's part of the double hitter. Uh, so, what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, against the Vikings. It's going to be interesting. First home game. It should be the energy at the link's going to be electric. Not only, just the first home game of the season, but, with this new revamped roster and all the moves that Howie's made so far. I mean, it's going to be exciting, man. And I feel like the Vikings, I wouldn't say they're a bad team. They're a very middle of the road team, but man, they can blow your doors off you, in certain situations. So I feel
Hmm.
like this is going to be the first like great test for this team, especially on a Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I feel like it's a winnable game. We didn't get one of those games where you're like, like we had a
Yeah.
couple of games last year where you kind of went into the game like, man, it's going to be tough. I think this is a good 50-50 game. Like you said, the Vikings can give it to you if you don't bring it correctly. But at the
Yeah.
same time, if we bring it, we have a good chance to win. Against the Vikings. So really excited. Glad that kind of leaked out a little early because it gets to kind of be a highlight before the full schedule releases.
Yeah.
Uh, and for those of you who are not aware, the full schedule releases tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
on the 12th. So tomorrow you'll know who you're playing where and when. I mean, you obviously know who you're playing throughout the season, but you know where you're playing them and when you're playing those games. Well, where in the schedule and when you're playing those games, I should say, because we already know home and away and all that, but we'll just kind of figure out the dates for everything. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Big thing to pay attention to if you're an Eagles fan. There will be 2 matchups against the commies this coming season.
Yeah, and it's rumored apparently to be like late in the season from what I've been seeing, like it was last year. Both matchups. They're saying that the first one's maybe like around like week 11 or something, and then the other one will be like right there at that very end of the season. So who knows if Wentz will be even starting at that point in time for the Commanders. I wish it
Right.
would have maybe been like one of the first home matchups or something for us. It would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would be dope if we could, because it seems like every year we play one of the divisional games early.
Yeah.
So it would be dope if the NFL set it up where we could play, the Commanders the first game in like week 3, week 4, like early in the season,
Yeah.
and let that be in Philadelphia. That would be great.
Yeah, because I feel like the past couple years they really put Washington very early on our schedule, and then they kind of saved like the Giants. I mean, they usually put the Dallas game, one of those games, a little earlier, and then they'll save
Hmm.
the last one like at the very end of the season, because they know they want Philly and Dallas to match up. Try to fight it out for that division right there at the end of the season.
Yep. And, based on what I've seen so far as games we're playing, who we're
Hmm.
playing, and our updates, I'll come out now and say I think that's who it's going to come down to again this year. I will
Yeah,
say that the Giants did make themselves better. The Commanders had a draft that was improvement, but I think that when you look at the positions that are in question for them, I think both of those teams have quarterback issues.
hmm
Dallas a little more solid. We're pretty solid, at least most of the fan base believes at quarterback right now. But I think that, as we get further into it, we'll figure out some of those nuances and how some of the other teams are going to match up. But I really feel like we'll be 1 or 2 in our division this year, and I do feel like we're going to make the playoffs back-to-back years for sure.
yeah, I think so as well. I mean, when was the last time someone repeated in this division as division champs? Like 2004. The last team that did it was us.
Yeah, it's been a
Uh,
while.
it's been a while. So I mean, I don't see Dallas taking the division title this year. I think most definitely going to come down to Philly. I feel either Philly or Dallas, like you were saying. But since Dallas, won it last year, I think it's Philly's time this year. Dallas, who knows what's going to happen to them? I feel like they lost a lot of decent pieces. They traded Amari Cooper for a bag of chips, pretty much. They could have got a lot more for him. They let some other pieces walk. I don't know. I don't think Dallas has really regressed a lot, but they definitely kind of I think their window is closing pretty fast at this moment. But
Yeah,
that's
when I
another
look at
topic.
when I look at them, I just think real quick, like they didn't get a lot worse, but they get a lot better, right? They kind of
Yeah.
stayed in the same range, and I feel like we've improved, so that
Mhm.
gap is going to be a lot tighter. But like
Yeah.
you said, enough about Dallas, enough about the rest of those bums.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another
Yeah, they don't like
talking
us,
about
and we
topic.
don't care. We're here to talk about us, you know.
But I like the matchups we've been seeing so far here. Like apparently like a week 14 matchup against the Steelers, who are rebuilding. Who knows what their QB situation will be like.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm gonna try to go to that game. That'll be a nice one here. Got some Steeler friends. Try to drag them to Philly to watch this game.
Yeah, I actually got to decide which one. I was thinking about the Commanders game, but I feel like you said, it's going to be later in the season, and I want to go to one earlier in the season. I
I
may
would
go to
like to as
Dallas.
well.
Yeah, I may go to Dallas. The game we could play against Dallas. In
Oh
Dallas, I
yeah,
might go to that one. That would be fun to go to. So I may
yeah.
do that. I'm definitely going to the Commanders game.
Hmm.
The game we play away against the Commanders. I go to that one every year with one of my buddies. So I'll definitely go to that. But I try to hit 2, 3 games a year, live.
Hmm.
So that's kind of my goal. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple years now, with everything going on, COVID and stuff. But I'm definitely trying to hit the link again this season. It's been too long. I'm trying to get to a game.
Trying to get
I
to a
usually try
gym.
to hit. I usually try to hit one or two a year, though.
Yeah, a game in Geno's for sure.
One of
That
those
is on the
spots.
plan. Yes, sir. That is definitely on the plan. So to get ourselves a little bit back on track, um, good conversation though, but just to get ourselves back on track a little
Yeah.
bit, we decided we were going to start talking about a review of the games last season, and then
Hmm.
we'll sandwich with reviews, and in the middle we'll talk about the offensive line preview for next year, just kind of what we have as of now, expectations for the starters, their backups, things like that. So we'll hop into that a little bit later, but we'll start off with a preview of, I think, one of, if not our best games of the season.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
wholeheartedly agree.
and that was week one against
Yeah.
Atlanta. And Wyatt, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just let you take the floor and talk to us about the game, man.
Man, it was a blast rewatching this because it really brought back all my feelings from watching that week one game. Because I felt like, it was one of our more complete games of the season. We were getting, the run was working, the pass game was working. Devontae Smith was on fire. Jalen Hurts was on fire. He barely had any incompletions. I mean, it was just all around complete, and it really boosted everybody's expectations for what they wanted to see throughout the season. And I felt like if they would have stayed in that lane where they were, I don't know, they were just executing at every level. I mean, the pass rush was a little meh. It kind of got working there towards the second end of the second half. But man, I wish they would have kept up that momentum because they really lost it in the next game we're going to talk about. But there was a lot of impressive stuff in this game. I mean, you had that Devontae's first catch was a touchdown, and Hurts put it perfectly there in that back corner of that end zone. Amazing. That's the stuff I want to see here with AJ Brown or Devontae Smith again this year. You have so many weapons you can do that kind of stuff with.
Yeah, man. Yeah, completely 100% agree. And just to hit some of those stats, man, just to show like kind of what you were saying, we ended
Hmm.
up winning that game 32-6.
Yeah.
We had 67 total plays. The Falcons had 64. Total yards, we had 434, which was one of our better outputs of the year there as well. We only gave
Hmm.
up 260. We had 14 penalties for 89 um, yards. The Falcons had 12 for 99 at home. There was actually no turnovers in the game. We were 6 of 13 on third down. We didn't have any fourth downs that we attempted to go for. Actually, my mistake. We had two, and we didn't make either one of those. My bad.
Hmm.
Passing, we had 27 of 35 for 260 yards from
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. Really good game for him there. Three passing touchdowns. Matt Ryan was only able to put up 21 of 35 for 136 and no touchdowns.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy things rushing, 31 attempts for 17 yards and a rushing touchdown. Time of possession was one of the things I looked at and I said, oh, that's a little tighter than I thought. We only had a time of possession of 31 minutes and 3 seconds, and the Falcons had
Okay.
28 minutes and 57 seconds. So they actually
Oh, okay.
possessed the ball about the same amount of time, which I actually thought about when I looked at the total plays being tight. It does kind of make sense. But when we did have the ball, man, we did some great things in that game. And there's a couple more stats we'll go over here in a few moments. But just like the total plays and all those things, man, any thoughts on anything that stuck out to you?
Well, I think the time of possession is interesting because one thing I did notice was the Falcons, they ran the ball really well. I mean, it was hard to stop for us to stop the run in this game. And we were lucky we were able to get up when we did, where they kind of had to, we're forcing them to pass. And at that point, Matt Ryan wasn't even able to do anything. That's when we really started creating pressures when we were forcing them to pass a majority of the time. But if it was closer, they would have been able to run that ball a lot more. That was one of the things that I was kind of weary on, was just, it's kind of a trend you see throughout the season. It was hard for us to stop the run and also get pressure on the quarterback. I believe we talked about that a little bit last week. But I mean, we saw a lot of good things out of this team. Miles Sanders had a couple huge runs in this game. He was
Mm-hmm.
fine in the hole. He wasn't really second guessing himself here. Kenneth Gainwell had a decent, his rookie debut there. Even Jalen Reagor had a nice, pretty big screen touchdown play they had there. One of the few highlights of Jalen Reagor's season this past season. So I mean, I feel like this game you really had a little bit of everything, because then you really saw Dallas Goedert's hands and work there in the end zone on that touchdown pass, and the skill that Jalen Hurts, while he was kind of on the run and sidearm through that tight window into Goddard's hands. That's something you will see throughout the course of the season. I mean, as we talk here over the coming weeks, um, we, Goddard does have some bad drops, but he also has, I think, the great catches, outweigh the bad drops there for him.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna have drops, right? No one's gonna
Yeah,
go through it and make every catch. Some of them you're just disappointed because you see the really good plays that he makes,
yeah,
and he has those drops. You're like, dude. And then at this point in the season, we still have Zach Ertz as well.
yeah,
Notable because that's another guy you have to pay attention to. So you think about essentially from last season to this season, we were able to replace another pass catching option, which we lost in Zach Ertz with AJ Brown, and not like a tit for tat, but just as far as
yeah.
thinking about how you're replacing what you lost. So definitely excited about that. Um, what stuck out to me was what you said. So we had 31 rushing attempts for 173 yards. The Falcons
Mhm.
had 26 attempts for 124 yards. We had a rushing touchdown, they didn't. So when you see even the tightness of the rushing attempts, it makes sense that the time of possession wasn't too much in our favor.
Mhm.
Um, we won the penalty battle, which we didn't do a lot last year, but we still gave up over 100 yards
Yeah.
rushing. They almost had as many rushing yards as they did passing yards. Definitely a theme that you'll see us talk about as we go through and talk about the games this year, as why I said. But um, the games that we got turnovers in kind of mitigated some of it, but a lot of games we gave up some big plays, a lot of them on the ground
Yeah.
or open passes, that we should have been able to make something different happen with. But I mean, we know where the season ended. We'll go through how we got there. This is, game one. But I really feel like we played a solid, strong game. One of our better games of the season. Like you said, first touchdown for Devontae Smith. Dallas Goddard had a nice scoring play as well. Gainwell had the run.
Yeah.
Rieger had the pass. We had a field goal in the fourth. So a lot of scoring plays for us. And that's another thing that we will see in spurts, but not consistently throughout this past season.
Yeah.
Um, any other thoughts on the game, Wyatt?
Just that we really got to see Hertz's, we got to see him, actually run also. We didn't really talk
Mm-hmm.
about that. We actually got to see him, take huge chunks of yardage out when he needed to. It seemed like this game he really was doing well at reading the field, seeing his options. It seemed like they actually had I don't know if Sirianni was telling them when to run, or if they had like these certain plays where they were, It was already set up, but it seemed like they were using them at the right times when they needed to. It just seemed like this was the perfect game for them to kick off the season. Everything was working. The only other thing I really didn't like, they started off heavy with the screens and they just kept using them until they just kept getting sniffed out every single time. And that's also another thing you're going to see throughout this season here is his love for the screen game. And Doug was doing it as well when Doug was here at the end. And I hated every minute of it, man. I hate seeing screens get called, every other play and they just keep getting blown up.
Yeah. You were right about Hurts running the ball. He had 7 carries for 62 yards. Had the highest average on the team by far with that. Gainwell had 9 for 37. Sanders 15 for 74. For me, you said something that I really love, but I got to be a little sarcastic when I reply. In that, you mean to tell me that Jalen Hurts was reading the field and making good throws? I thought he couldn't do that, right? I mean,
man.
You got these Eagles fans talking about Jalen Hurts can't throw, but you mean to tell me he was throwing? If you think back to the touchdown pass to Devontae Smith, it was the one place Devontae Smith could catch the ball and get in the end zone. It was precise. It had some distance. It was a good throw. I mean, I've seen multiple videos, mashups of great throws that Jalen Hurts made last year. I thought that was one of his good throws, definitely. But I think one of the things that we'll be able to point out as we go through the season is, there were times where you looked at Jalen Hurts and said, why did you do that? But there were also times where he made throws. Now, the throws may not have always been caught, which is a different issue. But
that's
he made
another
throws.
Theme throughout this season, because there was at least 6 or 7 catches that would have been, would have won these games for us. That would have added 2 to 3 more wins on this season, man. So it's not all Jalen Hurts. We got to realize this as well. He does have his faults, but man, you gotta see that the potential in this dude.
Yeah. In this game, man, the ball was spread around.
Yeah.
There were 7 receivers that had at least 2 catches. Ertz, Gainwell had 2. Quez Watkins had 3. Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith had 6. That's probably the most I remember Jalen Reagor having all of last year in one game. Sanders had 4, and Dallas Goedert had 4. So a very balanced passing game. I think that's important for us to be successful, as well as the balance of the passing game.
And we didn't mention about Quez either. Quez had a couple decent screens as well here. It really showed off his speed. We'll talk about him more here in the second game that's coming up. But he had a decent first game here as well. And I think Quez, I hope he's going to be that third spot here this coming season, because he's got some speed and he's got hands. I feel like he's just not getting enough attention. I feel like he can develop into a really good receiver.
Yeah, I think for him, real quick, for me, the thing with him is, are you better than Pascal or not? You're going to get time on the field either way. And Pascal's going to be a better blocker. Yeah. What I don't want us to do is get into that, we're going to throw the ball. We're going to put Quez out there. We're going to run the ball. We're going to put Pascal out there.
Yeah.
Whatever you decide is like how you're going to split the reps up between them and the targets between them. Make it so it's not noticeable that it's always pass downs that you have Watkins out and Pascal in. I think we finally can actually go 4 wide and feel comfortable that 4 guys can run the routes. Greg Ward is a guy you can throw in there if you want to go 5 wide. Hopefully he'll make the team and he'll be a presence.
Yeah, they re-signed him, I thought, didn't they? I thought they re-signed him to like a 1 year. They could still cut him or trade him.
Yeah, they could still cut him. Yeah.
With Greg Ward, I think we mentioned it on a previous show, but man, if they're going to use him in like red zone situations, get him some work leading up to that. Don't just throw him in there and expect him to catch a touchdown. You got to get him some catches before that. Get him warmed up a little bit. I don't want to see him only in red zone situations like last year, man. Like, come on.
And again, if you put him in those situations, the other problem is, Greg Ward's in the game. They're going to throw it to the end zone and try to get it to him. We don't want that. Like, just vary the offense enough with that, so that when people are reviewing tape, they have to think that if this player's in, it doesn't mean they're going to go in this package or they're going to do this.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things you have to really understand and have to really make sure you focus on doing. You know, back to Jalen Hurts real quick.
Hmm.
A lot about him is going to be said when we're doing these because he's the focal point, good or bad. This game,
Yeah.
I think he did well. There were some throws that he missed, and
Hmm.
that's okay. No one makes them all. But I think what you see a lot is the fact that no give up. He looked like a leader from week one. He looked like the guy that people were saying, okay, I'm going to follow him. This is my guy. I'm going to rock with him.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, feel free to drop your comments on, whatever we're talking about as well. But just for me, more ups than down throughout the season, more good than bad. There were some bad. There's bad with
Yeah.
everyone. But there's a guy that can make enough of the throws. I won't say he can make every throw, but he can make enough of the throws.
Yeah.
And he made some good plays on the run as well. And that's very important. Mobility behind a line like ours is important because, secret note, if you don't know this, the Eagles are really built more for a run block team. They can pass block, but they're more better at run blocking. A mobile quarterback gives you the options to open up those seams and him to either use them or use them as a decoy to make a pass. So that's
Hmm.
something that's important for our offense as well. And you can do that with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, where you couldn't do that with some of the quarterbacks we've had in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to the leadership thing is throughout the season, even in the worst times that he's had in this season, the lowest moments, he's still demonstrating leadership. He's still out there talking with the teammates on the sideline, working with the coaches, trying to figure it out. Whether, it leads to a win or not, it's even in the worst moments, it seems like he's all in. He's trying to do whatever he can and help this team succeed. And that's really what you want to see. And especially like in the off season and during the season, it seems like this guy does nothing but put the work in to try to get better. And I mean, that's really all that you can ask the guy to do. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We'll have to find another QB at that point. But until then, man, this is what you want to see out of a franchise QB.
Yeah, yeah, that's all you can ask, man. All you can ask is for him to go out and do what he's supposed to do and do it on a weekly basis. If he could do that, then hey, we're
Yeah.
in a position where we're going to be better than we were moving forward. He's going to get better. I like the mantra that our coach uses. One of the things I do like about the coach is his mantra of 1% better every day.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully that continues. Hopefully we continue to see growth, and hopefully our quarterback gets support. Whether they're going to go with someone else next year, whether they're going to draft a guy to possibly take his job, or whatever they plan on doing
Hmm.
next year, hopefully he does get, you know, support from our fan base and from the organization while he is a starting quarterback. I like him.
Yeah.
I hope he's a guy. But I've said this before, and I'll make sure I continue to say this so that people that may not watch every week will hear me say it. I want him to be the guy. I hope he can be the guy. But if we have to move on,
Yeah.
I will be fine with that. I
Exactly.
will not
We're a
be in a
Philadelphia
situation.
Eagles fan, not just a Jalen Hurts fan. Like we
Yes.
support whoever is QB1. It doesn't matter. And we got to recognize as fans, like no bias. If he's not doing well or not up to par, we got to move on. We got to find someone else. There's plenty of QBs that are going to be coming through this league or already in this league. We can figure something out here.
Yeah.
But
Most
I'm
definitely.
hoping that, with all these moves that they've made, before the draft and during the draft, I hope that sends the message and kind of boosts his confidence going into the season that, man, this organization's behind you. They want you to succeed. And I hope that really kind of just boosts his momentum and, boosts his attitude going into the season, that the team, not only the team, but the organization has his back and wants him to succeed. I think that's a huge thing for him. There's a lot of questions last year. But yeah, going into this season, there's no reason you shouldn't succeed.
Yeah, completely, man. Completely agree with
Mm-hmm.
that. We'll go ahead and slide
Mm-hmm.
on over to our preview for next year. So We're starting with the offensive line. What we'll be doing every week is the same format for the next, at least about 6 weeks or so, probably more than that. But what we'll do is we'll talk about any breaking stories. Just want to make sure people are aware kind of what we'll be doing.
Yeah.
Then after that, we'll kind of hop into one of the reviews that we'll do that week, and then in the middle we'll break it up because we don't want it to be boring and we're going over the same thing the whole show. So we'll break it up a little bit, hop into a quick preview for a position group. This week we'll do offensive line. Then we'll end with another review of one of the games for the week. So that way you kind of have an idea, my good people, watching it live or on replay, kind of how we're going to swing things this week. So obviously, offensive line is very integral to our success. We run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
There's a point in the season, we won't get to it tonight by far, but there was a point in the season where we actually said, hey, you know what? If we run the ball, we win games. It's a
Wait a
secret.
minute.
Yes, I know it's
We
a
could do
secret.
this.
Yeah, it's a secret. At least seemed like it was a Nick Sirianni for about a third of the season.
Yeah.
But your running game always starts with your offensive line, and your offensive line always starts at the center position.
Yeah.
So we've got a really great, I believe, Pro Bowl center, Hall of Fame center.
Oh yeah. One of the best top centers in the NFL.
Yeah,
Easily.
and Jason Kelsey.
Yeah. Future mayor of Philadelphia.
If he wants to be.
Jason Kelsey.
If he wants to be, it's definitely there for him. And then we drafted, and if you go back and watch our show last week, we talked about the draft. We drafted his heir apparent in Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, huge pick.
Yep. There was a time when Landon Dickerson was that guy, but he's done so well at left guard that it made sense to go out and get another guy to be the center and let Landon play where he's been playing well and been successful for us. So big move there, and way for us to realize, okay, let's make this move, and then we'll go get another guy next year, and we'll put him in that position. And I think Cam Jurgens is the perfect guy for that. So happy to see him on the team. I'm glad he's slotting in to be that number 2 at least before training camp. And then, of course, third, we have Jack Anderson. Anderson was on the team last year. The thing about Anderson is I don't dislike Anderson, but I feel like, how can I say this? We definitely need to get another center. Let's just put it like that. We just definitely needed to get another guy and have him as kind of like that emergency guy, or a guy that's the backup if Jason Kelsey gets hurt. We don't want him to be one of the top 2 options at center. Yeah. And of course, Sleeves, to your thoughts on these subjects, man, on our center position.
Yeah, man. To be honest, I don't know too much about Jack Anderson. Just the little bit I've seen on him. But I think our center, we talked about it last week. Jason Kelsey, he handpicked Cam Jurgens to come in here to be the heir apparent. And I mean, pretty much sitting behind Kelsey for a year, working out, getting bigger, to who knows, maybe Kelsey will play next year. We don't know or not. But he will be ready if he does retire. I think the future of the center is bright here for us. I mean, obviously we're going to have to try to get another one to back up Cam Jurgens eventually if Kelsey retires.
Right.
But I mean, there's no other player I'd rather have at center than Jason Kelsey.
Agreed. Unfortunately, we won't have him forever.
No. Much as I wish we could, man. And he's playing at such a high level still. It's insane.
Yep. Maybe one day Howard will sign his son to be our center.
keep it in the family. Go to the Eagles.
Apparently, he loves family members, right? No matter if they're good or not. Apparently, he loves family members. I can't ever let him live that down, man. I can't. I just can't.
Where do you want to go here next on the line?
We'll go to left guard. And what I'll actually do, sir, is I'll let you talk about our left guards first. We'll flip it.
Yeah, I mean, you've already mentioned Landon Dickerson got moved over there to left guard, and I think that is a fantastic move. Because on that blind side, we talked about Jalen Hurts a little bit. I feel like he can read, and I just feel like he's not at the point where he's developed enough where he can get through his progressions and read fast enough. That's why later in the season, when the defense is starting to put pressure on him, that's whenever he kind of, jumps the gun, makes some bad throws, just decides to run it if he has to. So I think hopefully he works on that. And I think not only Dickerson is a huge brick wall, but you got Mailata right there next to him as well. So you got huge 2 brick walls on your blind side. You can't ask for much better. because I don't think unless you have, Aaron Donald or someone on that other side, there's not going to be much getting past those two guys.
Yep, definitely true, man. And when you look at, in case something were to happen to Landon Dickerson, which we hopefully doesn't happen, but in
Yeah.
case, you have Sua Opeta, who is a guy who I feel can at least step in
Yeah.
and do some of those same things. I mean, obviously, in those positions, you may look and say, I'd rather have like Jack Driscoll, the right tackle, just slide over and play left tackle, because I think he may be a better player. And then since he is a tackle, it's just a matter of the technique difference that he may be practicing on both sides. But one of the big things about the Eagles line is versatility. As you said, Jordan Mailata. What's really amazing about Jordan Mailata, and I'll come back to the left guard in a second, but since we're talking about him, I want to outline and say this: 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Hadn't played, football before. Came in.
Never. Insane.
And in a couple of years, beat out the heir apparent at left tackle in Andre Dillard.
Mm-hmm.
And Brett Tothman, our third string left tackle, is not bad either, actually. The thing with Andre Dillard, man, you couldn't beat out Mailata. And you kind of, looks like once you realize you couldn't beat him out, you just kind of gave up. And the funny thing about that is, man, that doesn't signify you a long career in Philadelphia if you're going to give up because you don't win the starting position. I'm sorry, but you have to be prepared. Injuries can happen. And then you never know, like I was saying before, at right tackle, you never know where you would be asked to fill in there. So you don't want to just be like, oh, I didn't win, so let me stop. And it felt like that's what he did. It may not have been what happened. Excuse me, allergies are bothering me a little bit. It may not have been what happened immediately, but that's what I think a lot of people feel, and that's definitely what I feel. So you have to always play hard. You have to always go hard. I do think the left half of this offensive line is going to be good for the next 10 to 15 years. The best part about it is when you're young, you can play a long time. Linemen play longer than a lot of the other skill positions. So when you get those guys and they stay relatively healthy and they're good players, you can keep them for a long time, which bodes well for the Eagles, maybe not so well for the Cap, but it does bode well for the organization having people that can play.
Yeah. And I mean, you were talking about the reasons why Dillard wouldn't fit in, just because, it seemed like he kind of gave up, wasn't putting the work in. And that's exactly the reason why we love Mailata, is because, like you said, never played football before. He came in, and no matter where he put him, like the team put him, whether it was Doug or Sirianni, he was giving it his all to try to be the best at that position. Whether they, with Lane Johnson being out, they moved him over there for a minute. So they did with Dillard as well. I mean, no matter where they put him, he was doing his best. And I mean, he wasn't bad when they moved him at all. But man, right there, at left tackle, I mean, that's the spot for him. It's perfect. But going back to Dickerson, he had a great season last year.
He did. Very noticeable that left side was protected.
Yeah,
there were not a lot of
decent too. I know you mentioned Sua.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of times where you got a extensive rush busting through the left side. Obviously, there were times where Hurts may have held the ball a little longer than he should, took a little longer to make a decision, and got cracked for it. But that initial block, that initial stand up, that giving you that 5 seconds or so, 3 to 5 seconds to make a decision and throw the ball, that was there.
Yeah.
And on the quarterback's blind side is very important. And I think we saw as we got further in the season, he became more comfortable with knowing that he had that 3 to 5 seconds. And he started to have that internal clock going like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, move. Right. Yeah. So that was good as well. But I really like that combination of Dickerson and Mailata over there. And
I do too.
Yeah, that's gonna solidify that side for a long time. That's gonna make that side of the line really good for a long time. Not so much on the other side, which we'll get to in a minute, because some of those guys have a little bit longer in the team. So they're probably not going to last another 15 years. But they are good now, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and I mean, we had, who was the other guys here? Coyote Awasika. I don't really know too much about him, or Josh Sills. I mean, to be honest, I trust a lot of these guys just because Jeff Stoutland's the coach on this line as well. I mean, you also got to think of the training and the coaching on these guys. Like, I may not know much about them, but with Jeff Stoutland, kind of guiding them, pushing them in the right direction, you really can't go wrong. Because if what's his name? If Isaac Sayamalu can be a decent part of your line, man, I think you'll be okay. Because we'll get to him in a minute. I'm not sold on Isaac Sayamalu. I've never really been, but that's another story.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why have at it? Give us a little bit of your opinions on Simalu.
I just never have really been sold on him. And I mean, we've been seeing a lot of them because, Brandon Brooks was having so much trouble staying healthy these past couple years. Unfortunately, it was time for him to hang it up at this point.
Yeah.
But when he played, he was such a high caliber player that whenever you saw Isaac Sayamalu come in, you really know a difference, even though he's between Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, one of the two focal points of that offensive line at that point. You can really notice that difference there, where if Miles or one of the running backs tries to run over there, it always seems like that's the part that breaks first. I don't know. I just never been sold on him. I mean, I feel like I would much rather see like who else, like Jack Driscoll be in there or something. I know we haven't really seen much of LaRaven Clark at all, and I know they're listed at right tackle. But I mean, I feel like I would much rather see one of those guys try to take over than Isaac Sayamalu. I just never really been sold on him.
I mean, honestly, when I look across the line, I'd agree with you that would be what I would consider to be our weakest link on the offensive line. Not that he's
not terrible.
Bad.
I'm not saying that or anything, but I definitely think that's the weakest spot on the line.
Yeah, I'd say that I'd have to agree with that. A lot of times when you did see, like you said, the run penetration and the run stoppage or the bouncing outside, it was to the right side, and it was normally somewhere between Johnson and Siamalu that was happening.
Yeah.
I won't blame it on Siamalu every time, but I will say that I think if there was a stronger player, if we could just fill that last spot with a stronger player, or at least get Isaac Siamalu to play a little bit better, that would shore up some things. I think one of the adjustments we made were a lot of sweeps or tosses or outside runs to that side to kind of try to get the backs in some space. But yeah, Jack Anderson, I've seen some of William Dunkel. Who knows? Maybe one of those guys will end up being the future, or maybe that's a position we'll focus on in the draft, in the coming couple of years. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely serviceable. He's definitely nowhere near a bad player. But when you're looking at that line from top to bottom, right to left, he's definitely the guy that you're looking at. Like, if you were going to upgrade the line, that would be the position that I would first say that we definitely need to upgrade. And then moving to right tackle, talked about some of those guys already in LaRaven Clark, Jack Driscoll, and then we have Jared Williams as well, who's a young guy we'll get to learn throughout the offseason and training camps and things of that nature. But I think another really strong position, Lane Johnson is a dog. He's a guy that we thought may end up being the left tackle in the future, but he plays so well at right tackle, they just decided to do kind of what they're going to do with Landon Dickerson, just leave him there. One less position you have to figure out. Jack Driscoll's a guy that can play multiple positions on the line, so having him as that backup is great for us. LaRaven Clark, he's another guy that he comes from Indianapolis, so he kind of knows how to play. He's been in a similar system, so you have a guy there that if you need to put him in, you feel confident that he knows and understands the terminology, the techniques, the keys, how to block, where to block, and how to work with another group in the same type of offensive scheme that he's used to. So not a bad pickup there either. Lane Johnson, though, he's a guy that he's been around for a while. I remember when we drafted him, and that was a while ago, So the thing with that is he's nowhere near the point where you feel like he's going to tumble into nothingness tomorrow. But I mean, I think you realize that you're probably getting peak Landon Johnson right now, Lane Johnson, right now, because he's been in the league since 2013.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 9 years in the league, and that's not nowhere near he's retiring next year. But to expect him to make it another 9 years with as many injuries as he's had,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not looking likely. In the next couple years, you may want to try to get a nice replacement in there for him,
yeah. I think, and
unless they want to go with like Jack Driscoll or something.
yeah,
Would have been
and
nice if we kept Nate Herbig, but I understand him wanting to be like a starter
yeah.
somewhere.
I think in the next, 3 to 5 years, we'll still get a lot out of Lane Johnson. And maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Maybe he can stay a little bit healthier than he has and be able to contribute for another 8 to 10 years. But you'll need to replace him before you'll need to replace the left side of the line. That's a definite.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's nice because we do have the future for center. We have the future as far as we know at left tackle and left guard. You really
Hmm.
just got to worry about the right guard and right tackle not even right tackle as of right now. But that's something you're going to want to address sooner rather than later. That way it doesn't just jump up on you like, oh crap, we need someone in this draft this year, like now.
Yeah, I've always said it's better to draft a replacement a year too early than a year too late.
Yeah, I would much rather have someone just similar to Cam Jurgen learn behind Lane Johnson for a year or so. Get kind of have him teach him the ways, learn under him for a year. That way he can kind of hit the ground running.
Yep, absolutely. See, I was looking at Siamalu, and he's actually been in the league since looks like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been around, for a little bit.
Yeah, he's been a solid piece on the line. I wouldn't say he's great. I wouldn't say he's bad. He's been useful.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's a little bit more longer in the teeth, definitely on the right and the left side. But that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what you want. You want to be able to say, I've got a solid side for the next 15 years. I've got this other side, maybe the next 7 to 10 years, maybe the next 5 to 7 years, I'll be able to use the group that I have. But then, like you said, that's something you can look into down the road, replacing. Hopefully, we have a good next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
With AJ Brown signed, Devontae Smith still on his rookie deal until the end of that, and Jalen Hurts is the guy, so we don't have to worry about that, and we can kind of build and have low draft picks the next few years because we're having success. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what my hope is, and I really believe that this front is going to be the one that's going to help us do that. Um, we'll definitely talk other positions in the future, but I really believe this is one of the most important and best units that we have.
Yeah, I agree. It dictates how successful the offense is going to be.
Mhm.
Whether it be the pass or the run, everything starts there at that offensive line.
Yeah, definitely. And we've done a good job. Stoutland is probably my favorite coach on the Eagles
Yeah, keep this
because
dude around. Like
yes,
I know we had a scare. I think it was last year or the year before him either going to like coaching in college or something. We ended up coming back, so I'm hoping we can just lock him down for the foreseeable future here.
pay this man give him the assistant coach title if he wants it.
Yeah,
Just
whatever you
ask him
want.
to please keep coaching the offensive line because you have a group of monsters there, and we would like to keep that uh, and keep that going and continue that. So definitely, please stay there.
Yeah,
Before we hop back
please.
over to before we hop back over to the second teams, want to shout out Sideline Sports. Also want to shout out my other show, the Play Caller Show, Play Caller Sports Talk Show, playcallersportstalk.com. You can catch us on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Many shows on the Sideline Sports Network, and Wyatt will also give us a quick bit of info on his Squad Pods sports
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. Go ahead and watch Squad Pod Sports on YouTube every Thursday. We usually drop the new episode around 3 or 4 o'clock. We're always releasing, our crazy sports stat facts of the podcast every day on TikTok and on YouTube, as well as some other clips from the episodes we kind of put out on YouTube and TikTok as well, for anybody that can't tune in for the whole episode. So tune out for that show, and also all of our content over on the Waves 5 channel here as well.
Definitely, man. And you can always see the Eagles Elite podcast um, from the Play Call Sports Talk page as well. So that's kind of our sister show. Um, so definitely be on the lookout for those. Again, shout out to Sideline Sports and all the great shows on the network. I wouldn't want to highlight
Absolutely.
some that we're not on and not highlight them all. So I just say there's a lot of great shows. I do contribute to a couple of other shows the NBA Carousel on Monday nights at 8 o'clock, and also the Sip Off on Thursday nights. This week it'll be at 9 p.m. But just wanted to shout them out as well. They'll both be able to be found on the Sideline Sports Network. So definitely shout out again to them and to our shows. So we'll go ahead, and that's our little quick kind of commercial. So we'll go ahead and hop over to um, the second game, which
Oh,
did not
yeah.
have the same lovely outcome as the first. And I want,
Heartbreaking after that first week, man.
yes, um, I actually had a funny story. My co-host for my show is a 49ers fan. So I was telling him, yeah, we're doing
Hmm.
the season recaps, and we were going to talk about the first two games tonight. And he was like, oh, you need somebody to come on and talk the second game? I was like, no, we don't. No, thank you. We're good.
Yeah, I mean, this game, pretty much all the troubles you see out the whole season were in this game. Everything that went wrong throughout the season was in this game. The offense just could not get anything rolling. They abandoned the run. They were trying to throw too much. This is where it all started, I feel, was this game. And this was a very winnable game, I feel.
The saddest part of this game is I watched it, right? I had the stats up when I was
As
watching
you
it
watched it, the saddest part is I
because,
watched this game.
yeah, I rewatched it and I'm saying, so I'm looking at the stats and I'm looking at the game. I'm like, these don't match. And I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
Stat wise, we had 55 total plays on offense. Well, 55 total plays. Yeah. We had 328 total yards. They had 68 plays, the 49ers, and they only had 306 total yards. So we actually outgained them.
Hmm.
We had 8 penalties for 57 yards. They had 5 penalties for 60 yards. We always seem to have more penalties than the other team, but somehow, yes, less yards. But see, the thing is, those little 5 yard penalties that get them an automatic first down can kill you, and it killed us in this game.
Oh yeah, and not even just like the little 5 yard. There was touchdowns that were removed out from penalties in this game, and there was a fumble recovery that was pulled back because of a penalty in this game. You see that a lot here, and I know we're going to talk about it in the next couple weeks. But these first like 6, maybe 7 games is man, these were where the penalties were terrible. They were able to get it worked out in the second half of the season, but man, these first couple games were rough when it came to penalties.
I'm not going to call out a specific player,
But
but
it's
there
always
was
him.
one, yeah, one specific guy that was in all of the bonehead plays. A lot of them was one specific guy. Not going to
Mhm.
call his name out tonight, but yeah, we all know who
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this was should have been the Quez Watkins game. He had a couple huge bomb passes because Jalen Hurts had an arm in this game. I know. I mean, you could also say something sarcastically back to this. Jalen Hurts could throw a deep ball, believe it or not, and you saw it in this game. One was to Jalen Reagor, who you can argue he was pushed out of bounds or stepped out of bounds and then came back in and didn't establish himself before catching and getting that touchdown. That was called back. But you had a couple huge not touchdown, but huge passes to Quez Watkins, like 60 yards, 70 yards, close, almost got a touchdown. But you really saw that Jalen Hurts does have an arm in certain situations, and he was under pressure a lot in this game too.
So again, you mean to tell me that Jalen Hurts actually can throw the ball down the field and
It's
make
crazy.
catch and make wonderful throws to receivers?
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
nuts.
Yeah, the best part about looking at the games is you see these things, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes if you don't really watch and you just stat feed and listen to the 4 letter and 3 letter networks, things get over sensationalized.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, good throws were made. Some were caught, callbacks. Some were not made.
Hmm.
Um, we definitely, and the thing is, passing. This is the stat that kills me. San Francisco was 22 of 30 for 189 yards. We were 12 of 24 for 177 yards. So we talk about, and as I watched the game, I even felt this way. We threw the
Hmm.
ball way too much.
Yeah.
Then I looked, and I was like, we only had 24 attempts, but we had 29 rushes for 151 yards. So had we took 5 of those throws, and turn them into runs, we're not even having the same conversation today.
Yeah. And going to what I mentioned here in the first game, they forced the screen so much in this game. And even in like third and long situations, they were forcing the screen and they were just getting blown up every single time. And another thing that is a pattern here going through the season, Dallas Goedert didn't catch his first ball until the fourth quarter of this game. Like, they didn't get him involved at all in this game up until the fourth quarter. I mean, yeah, he was probably out there blocking and such, but he wasn't involved in this offense. They were trying to force it to Devontae Smith a lot of the time, who was being covered. Was it by Josh Norman? Was it? I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were forcing screen passes, which were just getting, they were getting sniffed out and blown up right away as soon as the play was called. And then you have Jalen Hurts. He didn't get sacked too many times, but he damn near did almost every play because he was getting chased out of the pocket. It's just, man, it was terrible. We shot ourselves in the foot in this game.
And the time of possession.
Yeah.
They had 34 minutes and 54 seconds, pretty much 35 minutes, and we had 25 minutes and 6 seconds. So pretty much 25 minutes. So we allowed them to hold the ball an extra pretty much 10 minutes. And, I said this to my co-host on my other show. We beat ourselves. You didn't beat us, and, he didn't want to hear that, of course. But the truth is, we did. We kind of beat ourselves in this game. Obviously, not taking anything away from the other team for winning, in this case, 49ers. But, boy, did we shoot ourselves in the foot. So many just bad plays and bad plays called back. Just run the ball. This was a running game. This was a game where I'm on Facebook Live, Instagram, Twitter, saying, silly Sirianni, run the ball.
Run the ball. That's all they had to do this game.
The ball.
When I was rewatching the tape, even the announcers were like, I forget who it was that the 49ers played in week 1, but they're like, oh, the 49ers gave up 150 rushing yards last week too. And like, that's all we had to do was run the ball on them. And we didn't do that. And you mentioned dumb plays. I actually had this written down. A third and long call in the third and goal. They had some weird play where Jalen Hurts was running with Miles Sanders and was holding it in Sanders' arms. And then he pulled it out to kind of give it to himself at the last minute, but it was already too late. The play was already getting blown up. And then on fourth and goal, you give it to Greg Ward, who wasn't in the offense, as a quarterback to throw it to Jalen Hurts in the end zone. And he just throws it away on fourth down. He didn't know where to throw it, so he just throws it away. And I silly Sirianni, like you're saying, I have no clue what they were thinking here. Like, Greg Ward not only was not in the game at this point, even as a receiver, but you're going to just throw him in as a QB to throw a touchdown in a dire situation. Like, we needed points at that point. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just so disappointing, man. Just so disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats, man.
Yeah, and I mean, we see in some of these other games where we were losing throughout the season. I mean, that's when Hurts tried to really kind of do it all himself. That's when you started seeing him like, all right, I'm going to try to get these huge run plays, these huge run, chunky yardage out. I'm just going to run it 20, 30 yards, maybe dip, dunk, pass it a little bit, and then I'm going to run it again because we need to do something here. Nothing else is working. And he tried to do it all himself. And I mean, it seems like Hurts plays well when he's under pressure at these end of these games, but by that time it might be a little too late, too little, too late. Or just, it's just not working with the offense. They're dropping passes or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, this game perfectly explained why we were in the position we were most of the season last year. Just all the bad decisions all around.
Yeah, and I didn't like the runs because we didn't use Boston Scott at all in this game. I felt like he could have been a difference maker. Hurts had 10 attempts for 82 yards. Sanders had 13 for 55, and Gainwell had 6 for 14. Gainwell, I feel like, was a good pick and has a role in the offense, but I don't understand how he had leapfrogged Boston Scott. I didn't understand what he did. Either. Yeah, I don't understand what he did to be in that position at that point in the season. Now, later on in the season, maybe you could argue that maybe he would have leapfrogged him anyway. But at that
Mhm.
point in the season, we really could have used Boston Scott in that game.
Yeah, they did it in week 1. I mean, we talked about Gainwell getting a touchdown and a lot of touches. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand the reasoning behind that either. Like,
Yep.
what happened with Boston? And because then they went to Boston Scott throughout the
Mm-hmm.
season a lot. So, I mean, who knows? And Jordan Howard. They didn't use Jordan Howard at all either.
Yeah, I remember we didn't sign him off the practice squad until what, about week 6 or 7?
Until they had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, no receiver had over 2 receptions. Zach Ertz had
Wow.
1 for 16. Miles Sanders had 1 for 4 yards. Gainwell
Mhm.
had 2 for 18. Goddard had 2 for 24. Rieger had 2 for 5, more like the numbers he's got the rest of the season. Devontae Smith had 2 for 16. Quez Watkins was the big play guy, 2 for 117.
Mhm.
We didn't put anything together. We didn't
Nope.
show up to play. The other team did.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's for the
It happens.
49ers, it took like 2 plays. There was 2 Debo plays that really boosted their momentum, and that's what got him the points. Like, he had a pass with a huge chunk of yardage after a catch there right down the
Mhm.
middle at one point, and that's really what gave him the momentum to kind of go down there and score. Jimmy had a couple QB sneaks that were surprising. I think he got one of those touchdowns. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the reason we lost though is just making dumb decisions. Dumb decisions and penalties.
Yeah. You got to be better. You got to win games. You got to close out games.
Yep.
We'll see a pattern you'll see for him throughout the season. Not
Oh
enough
yeah.
throwing the ball, not enough running the ball, and putting the game in the hands of a guy that's in his first really handful of starts in the NFL did
Mhm.
not bode well for the beginning of our season.
No.
Um, this is one of those losses that stings because it should be a win. There were some losses we had that is just like, hey, it is what it is. But this is one that really should have been a win.
Yeah.
But we just kind of let it get away. But there is nothing you can do about it at this point, but learn from it. They didn't learn immediately from it, but I feel like later on in the season they did learn from it.
Yeah, I feel like if that game would have been like towards the end of the season, we would have won it. No problem. We would have had it we had to figure it out to a science there towards the end of the season of what we wanted to do. Um, so I think it would have been different then. But I mean, at that point, Sirianni was kind of full of himself. He thought, he was a little high off that week 1 win against the Falcons. He wanted to come out and really blow everyone's socks off. And, it was complete opposite.
That's how you got the name Silly Sirianni for me. That's exactly how you got it. But yeah, man, hopefully we'll have better things to talk about next week. I remember the
Yeah.
next 2 games. We really don't, but yeah.
Hey, I mean, we'll have those weeks, man.
Yeah, we'll make it fun though. We'll talk wide receivers and tight ends next week. That's always uplifting. So we'll do that next week.
Absolutely, especially with the position we're in here now.
Yes, sir. So we'll do that next week and we'll talk those guys. Um, so just want to say appreciate everyone that watched the video, everyone that watches the replay, everyone who hopped in, even if we were able to stay the whole time. We'll definitely be back next week. Be ready for us. And anything else from you, Wyatt?
No, that's pretty much it, man. Make sure to check out the show each week. Go check out all the shows on Sideline Sports. Check out Real Play Callers and also Squad Pod Sports every week. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
You got it. And quickly before I forget, shout out to Go Gadget for the intro video. Hope you guys like that. And just want to end it with no one likes us and we don't care.
Nope, not at all.
See you next week.
See you, everyone.